Alex lived in a quiet town, a place where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen. His days followed a predictable routine. He would wake up early, make himself a simple breakfast, and then head to his small office job. He worked in technology, designing software and solving problems for people, and he enjoyed it. But deep down, he always felt like there was something missing in his life. He dreamed of adventure, of seeing the unknown, but life had a way of keeping him grounded. He had never traveled far, never faced danger, and never imagined that his life would change in a single night. It was a calm evening when the sky started to glow with unusual colors. Alex had just finished his dinner and was sitting by the window, watching the stars appear one by one. At first, he thought it was an aurora or some rare weather phenomenon, but the light grew brighter and moved with a strange speed. It seemed almost alive, swirling across the sky before settling in a nearby forest outside of town. Curiosity pulled at him, stronger than fear. He grabbed a flashlight, put on his jacket, and decided to investigate. As he approached the edge of the forest, he noticed a trail of destruction. Trees were bent, branches broken, and the ground was scorched in some places. The air smelled different, like ozone and something metallic. Then, in a small clearing, he saw the source of the light, a spacecraft unlike anything he had ever seen. It was sleek and silver with smooth curves and glowing markings. Smoke rose from its damaged hull and a low hum vibrated in the air. Alex felt his heart race. Part of him wanted to run away, but another part, the part that always longed for adventure, urged him closer. Suddenly, a figure stumbled out of the wreckage. At first, Alex could only see a silhouette, but as the smoke cleared, he realized it was a person, or at least something that looked humanoid. She was tall, with a strong, athletic build, and she wore armor that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Her hair shimmered in colors he had never seen before, and her eyes glowed softly. She looked fierce, like a warrior ready to fight, but there was something unusual about her posture. Before Alex could even think about what to do, she dropped to her knees on the ground. Her weapon, which looked deadly, fell from her hands. Her head bowed slightly, and her glowing eyes looked at him with a mix of fear and desperation. "Spare me, human. I'll serve you however you want," she said, her voice trembling but clear. Alex froze. He had never heard anything like this in his life. A powerful unknown being kneeling and begging him for mercy. It was almost unbelievable. His mind raced with questions. Why would such a strong warrior beg a human for help? Was she dangerous? Could he trust her? And yet he also felt a strange compassion for her. Despite her strength and armor, she was clearly injured and vulnerable. He stepped closer cautiously, noticing the cuts and bruises on her skin and the scorch marks on her armor. It was clear that the crash had hurt her badly. She was breathing heavily and her hands trembled. Alex realized that she wasn't just a threat. She needed help. The thought of leaving her there to suffer didn't feel right. He remembered all the stories of bravery and heroism he had read as a child, and a sense of responsibility washed over him. "Are you hurt badly?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. The alien warrior looked up at him, her glowing eyes meeting his. There was no anger or hostility there, only exhaustion and a faint spark of hope. She nodded slightly, unable to speak again for a moment. Alex decided he had to act. He ran back to his car, grabbed a first aid kit, blankets, and some water, and returned to the clearing. Carefully, he approached her again. "I'm going to help you," he said softly. "Can you walk?" She shook her head. "Then we'll carry you," he replied. And with effort, he lifted her carefully into his arms. She was heavier than he expected, but he managed. She didn't resist, only whispered softly, "Thank you, human." As he carried her home, Alex couldn't stop thinking about how strange and unreal the situation was. He was just an ordinary person, yet here was a being from another world, putting her trust in him completely. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. When they reached his small house, he laid her on the couch and began tending to her wounds. He cleaned the cuts, applied ointment, and wrapped bandages carefully. She flinched slightly at first, then relaxed, watching him with curious eyes. Once her immediate injuries were treated, she finally spoke. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice still soft but steadier. I was betrayed. My commanders wanted me gone. I never expected to survive the crash." Alex listened carefully, intrigued and cautious at the same time. She told him that she came from a distant world, that her people were warriors, and that she had fought in battles he could barely imagine. She explained her submission, saying that she would serve him not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice if she wanted to survive. Alex didn't fully understand her world or her past, but he understood one thing clearly. She was alive, and she needed him. And as he looked into her glowing eyes, he realized that helping her was not just an act of kindness. It was the beginning of something extraordinary. He had always dreamed of adventure, and now, adventure had found him in a way he never could have imagined. As night fell, Alex and Lyra sat quietly in his living room. The lights from outside cast shadows on the walls, and the air was filled with a strange mix of tension and anticipation. Neither of them spoke much, but a bond had begun to form. Lyra's strength and fearlessness were still there, but so was her vulnerability. And Alex's ordinary life had suddenly become something completely new and unknown. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alive. He knew that the days ahead would not be easy, that danger might come again, and that he was now part of a world far larger than he had ever imagined. But at that moment, with Lyra kneeling in front of him, trusting him completely, he also felt hope. Hope that he could protect her, that they could survive together, and that perhaps in the process they would both discover something far greater than themselves. And so, Alex's ordinary life ended that night, replaced by a journey into the unknown, where the bond between a human and an alien warrior would be testy. After the crash, Alex realized that helping Lyra was only the beginning. He had brought her to his home, tended her injuries, and given her water and blankets, but he knew that keeping her safe would be more complicated than he had imagined. Lyra was not just an ordinary visitor. She was a warrior from another world, a being with powers, weapons, and knowledge far beyond anything he had ever encountered. And yet, despite her strength, she remained kneeling before him, trusting him entirely. That trust was both humbling and frightening for Alex. In the following days, Alex did his best to help Lyra recover. He cleared a space in his small living room, setting up a makeshift bed with blankets and pillows. He brought her food and drinks, simple things that humans often took for granted, but she seemed fascinated by every little detail. She asked questions about everything: why humans slept on beds, why they cooked food instead of hunting, why the night sky looked different from her planet. Her curiosity reminded Alex of a child seeing the world for the first time, despite the fact that she had already survived battles across the galaxy. Lyra, in turn, began to tell Alex more about her past. She spoke cautiously at first, as if testing whether he would understand. She explained that she had been a soldier in a powerful alien empire, trained from a young age to fight, lead, and obey. She had been taught that loyalty was absolute and that weakness was punished severely. Alex listened, fascinated but also saddened. He could see the weight of her past, the years of discipline, fear, and solitude that had shaped her into the warrior kneeling in front of him. "I never knew kindness before," Lyra admitted one evening, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "I was trained to survive, to obey, to conquer. I did not understand mercy, friendship, or trust." Her voice was soft, almost trembling. Alex realized how much courage it took for her to speak these words. Here was a being who could destroy entire armies, yet she was revealing her vulnerabilities to him. Alex smiled gently. "It's okay, Lyra. You're safe here. You don't have to fight anymore, not if you don't want to." He paused and then added, "You can trust me." She hesitated but nodded slightly. That small gesture, so simple, felt like a breakthrough. Over. The next few days, Alex and Lyra began to develop a routine. He would go to work during the day, but he always returned home to check on her. Sometimes they would sit together in silence, watching the sunset or listening to the wind rustle through the trees. Lyra seemed to find comfort in these quiet moments, and slowly, she began to lower her guard. She would speak about her planet, about the landscapes she had seen, the battles she had fought, and the comrades she had lost. Alex listened intently, imagining the incredible world she described, world so different from the one he had always known. Lyra also began to observe Alex's life. She watched how he cooked his meals, how he worked on his computer, how he interacted with neighbors when he briefly stepped outside. She asked questions, sometimes with confusion, sometimes with wonder. "Why do humans smile when they are happy?" she asked one afternoon. "In my world, joy is expressed differently." Alex laughed softly. "Smiling is just one way we show we care about someone, or that we feel good. It's simple, but important." She tried to mimic his smile, and though it was awkward at first, it was endearing. Trust between them grew slowly but steadily. Alex learned that Lyra had incredible abilities. She could sense movement from far away, react faster than the eye could follow, and had knowledge of advanced technology. But he also noticed that she was cautious, careful not to use her power recklessly. She seemed to understand that life on Earth was different, and she was willing to adapt. For Alex, this was remarkable. He realized that despite her extraordinary skills, Lyra was willing to learn, to follow his guidance, and to respect human life. One afternoon, Lyra asked a question that caught Alex off guard. "Why do you help me, human? You are not obligated. You could leave me here to fend for myself." Alex thought for a moment. "Because it's the right thing to do. You were hurt. You trusted me. And because, well, I think everyone deserves a chance to be safe, even if they've made mistakes in the past." Lyra studied him for a long moment. "I see," she said softly. "You have a strength that is different from mine. You are brave, not because of weapons or training, but because of your heart." That night, Alex and Lyra shared a quiet meal. He cooked simple pasta and bread while she watched curiously. "On my planet, we eat raw protein or energy capsules," she said, tasting the food slowly. This is different. It is pleasant." Alex smiled. "I'm glad you like it. Food can be simple, but it can also bring comfort and connection." She nodded as if absorbing every word. As days turned into a week, the bond between Alex and Lyra deepened. She began helping him with small tasks around the house, though awkwardly. She was still learning, still adapting, but her willingness to serve was genuine, not forced. And Alex began teaching her simple human habits. How to make tea properly, how to handle delicate objects, even how to walk quietly without drawing attention. Each lesson was a small victory, a bridge between their worlds. Despite their growing friendship, Alex remained aware of the risks. Lyra's presence was extraordinary, and it was only a matter of time before someone or something would notice. He worried about the authorities, about curious neighbors, and most of all about the alien forces that might come looking for her. Yet for now, he focused on the present. He focused on keeping her safe, learning about her world, and building the trust that was so fragile and yet so vital. In quiet moments, Alex would catch Lyra watching him with something that was almost human in expression: curiosity, admiration, and perhaps even gratitude. And he, in turn, found himself admiring her strength, resilience, and intelligence. Despite coming from completely different worlds, they were learning from each other, growing together, and forming a connection that went beyond words. It was during these moments that Alex realized something profound. Lyra's submission, her willingness to serve him, was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of trust and hope. She had faced betrayal, danger, and loss, yet she chose to believe in him. And in return, he chose to believe in her. Not just as a powerful alien warrior, but as someone capable of change, loyalty, and even friendship. By the end of the week, Lyra was moving more confidently, her injuries healing steadily. She began exploring his home more freely, asking questions and sometimes even teasing him in ways that were awkward but charming. Their days were filled with learning, laughter, and quiet reflection, and through it all, Alex knew that their journey was only beginning. The ordinary human life he had led for so long had been transformed by one extraordinary encounter. And for both Alex and Lyra, the trust they had built would soon be tested in ways neither of them could yet imagine. As days passed, the bond between Alex and Lyra grew stronger. They had learned to trust each other, but their connection was no longer just about survival. It was about understanding and learning from one another. Alex realized that Lyra's skills as a warrior could be useful not only for protection, but also for teaching him how to face challenges he had never imagined. And Lyra, in turn, began to understand the human world in ways she had never experienced before, appreciating its simplicity, its struggles, and its small joys. One morning, Alex found Lyra practicing movements in the living room. She moved with incredible speed and precision, each motion a reminder of the battles she had fought in her past. He watched in awe, knowing that she could easily overwhelm him if she wanted, yet she practiced carefully, almost as if testing her own limits. "I want to teach you something," she said, her glowing eyes focused on him. Alex nodded, curious. He knew this was his chance to learn from someone truly extraordinary. Lyra began with basic self-defense techniques. She showed him how to position his body to maintain balance, how to use his weight to defend rather than attack, and how to remain calm under pressure. At first, Alex struggled. His movements were clumsy, his reflexes slow compared to hers. But Lyra was patient. She adjusted her teaching, slowing down her motions, giving him step-by-step guidance. "Your strength is not in your muscles," she explained, "but in your mind, your strategy, your awareness." Alex listened carefully, realizing that she was teaching him not just combat, but a way of thinking. In return, Alex began teaching Lyra about human life. He showed her how to cook simple meals, how to use tools, and even how to read books for enjoyment rather than instruction. Lyra was fascinated. She had lived in a world where every action had a purpose. Every skill was honed for survival or battle. The concept of learning for pleasure, of reading stories and understanding ideas without immediate practical use, was entirely new to her. She began to read with him, slowly understanding the joy of imagination and curiosity. Through these lessons, they began to share more than knowledge. They shared experiences. Alex taught her how to laugh at small mistakes, how to notice beauty in the ordinary, and how to relax when danger was not near. Lyra, in turn, shared stories of distant planets, of massive battles, of comrades she had lost and victories she had won. Her voice was steady, but sometimes a flicker of sadness appeared in her eyes, revealing the weight of her past. Alex listened, not as a judge but as a friend, and this made her feel safe in a way she had never felt before. As they spent time together, Alex noticed changes in Lyra's behavior. She was still a warrior, still cautious and observant, but she began to act more thoughtfully. She would stop herself from using unnecessary force, considering the consequences of her actions in the human world. She also started to show curiosity in the smallest things. A butterfly landing on a flower, the way rain formed puddles on the ground, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. These small moments, which humans often took for granted, fascinated her. One evening, as they were practicing a new technique in the backyard, Lyra paused and asked a question that surprised Alex. "Do humans always show kindness to strangers?" she asked, her voice quiet. Alex thought for a moment. "Not always," he admitted. "But kindness can be more powerful than anything else. It can create trust, respect, and even friendship." Lyra nodded slowly. "I see now," she said. "Your kindness saved me. It gave me a chance to learn, to change. That is something I did not understand before." Alex felt a sense of pride and warmth, knowing that his simple actions had made such a profound impact on someone so extraordinary. Their days continued with this exchange of knowledge and trust. Alex began to anticipate her needs, preparing meals. She liked creating small exercises that helped her adjust to the human environment, and keeping the house safe in ways she could appreciate, but would not worry about. Lyra, in turn, taught him advanced strategies for observation and defense, showing him how to anticipate problems before they occurred. Alex realized that he was growing stronger, not just physically but mentally, gaining confidence he had never known before. Despite the calm and learning, Alex could sense that danger was never far away. Lyra's presence on Earth was unusual, and it was only a matter of time before someone would notice. Sometimes she would glance toward the sky, her eyes reflecting concern. Alex asked her about it. "They will come for you, won't they?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes," she admitted. "Some of my people may try to find me. They will see me as a traitor. You must be careful, Alex. They are not like humans. They do not hesitate, and they do not forgive." Alex listened carefully, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Yet he also realized that he was not alone in facing this. Lyra was no longer just a warrior in need of protection. She was his ally, willing to defend him as fiercely as he had protected her. "Then we'll face it together," he said firmly. "Whatever comes, we'll be ready." She studied him for a moment, then nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. For the first time, Alex saw a glimpse of hope and determination in her expression that went beyond fear or desperation. As trust grew, so did their friendship. They began to share small joys and laughter. Alex would tell stories from his childhood, sometimes exaggerating for entertainment, and Lyra would react with amusement, sometimes trying to mimic human humor in her own unique way. She also started to develop a sense of responsibility, helping Alex with tasks that were difficult or dangerous, always careful but always willing. Their relationship became a partnership, built on trust, learning, and mutual respect. One day, while working together in the backyard, Alex noticed that Lyra was practicing a combination of her combat skills and the human techniques he had learned from her. Her movements were precise, controlled, and thoughtful. "You've improved," he said, impressed. She paused and looked at him. "I've learned from you," she replied simply. "Not just the physical techniques, but the patience, the understanding, the strength that comes from protecting rather than destroying." Alex felt a deep sense of connection at her words, knowing that their bond was becoming something extraordinary. By the end of the week, both of them had grown in ways they could not have imagined. Alex had gained confidence, knowledge, and courage, while Lyra had discovered compassion, patience, and the beauty of human life. They had begun to rely on each other, not out of obligation or fear, but out of trust and respect. And in those moments, Alex understood that their journey was far from over. They had faced the past and learned from it, but the future would challenge them in ways that would test everything they had built together. For now, however, they could enjoy these quiet moments, learning and growing, preparing for the challenges ahead. And through it all, the bond between a human and an alien warrior continued to deepen. A bond of trust, learning, and mutual respect that neither of them had ever expected, but both had come to cherish. The calm that Alex and Lyra had enjoyed for weeks did not last. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows stretched across the town, Lyra sensed something. Her glowing eyes scanned the sky and her body tensed. "They are coming," she said quietly. Alex looked at her, alarmed. "Who? What do you mean?" Lyra explained that her former commanders and soldiers from her world would not forgive her betrayal. They would seek her out, and they were capable of great force and destruction. Alex's mind raced. He realized that their peaceful days were about to end. But despite fear, he knew they had prepared for challenges. Lyra had trained him, taught him strategy, and now they were partners, not just protector and protected. "Then we face them together," he said firmly. Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting both determination and relief. For the first time, she seemed confident that she was not alone. Over the next few hours they prepared. Alex secured his home as best as he could, moving furniture to create barriers and ensuring that windows and doors were locked. Lyra stood, silently, observing his efforts, occasionally offering advice. "This will slow them, but it may not stop them entirely," she warned. Alex nodded, understanding that their safety depended not just on preparation but on quick thinking, strategy, and teamwork. When the first signs of the alien forces appeared, a strange hum in the distance and glowing lights moving swiftly through the sky, Alex's heart pounded. Lyra stood beside him, calm but alert. "Remember," she said, "we do not need to fight to destroy. Strategy, observation, and timing are our greatest weapons." Alex took a deep breath, realizing that this was no longer practice. It was real. The battle began quietly. Alien scouts approached, moving faster than Alex's eyes could follow. Lyra guided him through every step, showing him how to anticipate their movements, how to stay hidden, and how to use the environment to their advantage. Alex followed her instructions, using the knowledge he had gained over weeks of training. He was still human, but with Lyra's guidance he felt capable, strong, and aware. Lyra engaged the enemy strategically. She did not attack recklessly. Instead, she used her strength to mislead, trap, and neutralize opponents without causing unnecessary harm. Alex was amazed. He realized that she had learned to respect human life and their world, using her skills with precision and care. At the same time, he contributed by observing, signaling, and setting up traps that relied on careful planning rather than brute force. As the confrontation escalated, Lyra and Alex moved together seamlessly. Their bond, forged through trust and shared experience, allowed them to anticipate each other's actions without words. Lyra's alien strength combined with Alex's human intelligence became a powerful team. Each challenge was met with coordination and clever thinking, turning a potentially overwhelming situation into a manageable one. During a brief pause, Lyra whispered, "I am no longer serving them. I serve you, Alex. Not out of fear, but choice. I choose to protect you just as you have protected me." Alex felt a mix of awe and gratitude. He had never imagined that someone from another world, someone so powerful, would choose to follow him not as a subordinate but as a loyal ally. It was a moment that solidified their connection, deepening the trust and respect between them. Hours passed. The alien forces, realizing that they could not easily overwhelm the human and alien duo, began to retreat. Lyra stood, uninjured but vigilant, while Alex surveyed their surroundings, ensuring that no immediate danger remained. Their teamwork had succeeded. They had faced a threat far beyond anything Alex had imagined, and they had survived, not through strength alone, but through strategy, patience, and trust. As the night settled, they sat together, catching their breath. "That was close," Alex said quietly, still processing the intensity of the confrontation. Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes softening. "Close. But we were ready. We faced it together. And that is the most important part." Alex realized then that their bond was more than survival. It was a partnership built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. The night passed quietly, but Alex knew that this was only the beginning. The threat might return, stronger or more cunning. But for now, they had proven something important. Together, they were capable of facing any challenge. And in that realization, they found hope, strength, and the courage to continue forward, ready for whatever came next. With the immediate danger behind them, Alex and Lyra began to think about the future. The alien forces might return someday, but they could not live in fear forever. Instead, they focused on learning, strengthening their bond, and preparing for the challenges that life or the universe might bring. Lyra continued to adapt to human life. She explored the town carefully, learning about human interactions, habits, and culture. She asked questions endlessly, fascinated by the smallest details: how people celebrated birthdays, why humans laughed at certain things, and how families supported each other. Alex patiently explained, sometimes demonstrating, sometimes letting her observe quietly. She was like a student absorbing every moment, but also a partner learning how to live in a new world. Meanwhile, Alex continued to learn from Lyra. Her understanding of strategy, observation, and defense was far beyond human capability. She taught him to notice patterns in behavior, to anticipate danger, and to think several steps ahead in any situation. These lessons were practical, but they also changed Alex in ways he had not expected. He became more confident, more aware, and more capable. The quiet human he had once been was evolving into someone prepared for extraordinary circumstances. They also began to work on small projects together. Alex had always been interested in technology, and Lyra had knowledge of advanced alien science. Together, they explored ways to combine their skills. They tinkered with devices, repaired old machines, and sometimes just experimented for fun. These moments were filled with laughter, creativity, and the joy of discovery. Alex realized that Lyra's presence, once terrifying and mysterious, had become a source of inspiration and friendship. Despite the peaceful days, they remained cautious. Lyra taught Alex techniques to remain hidden if necessary, to avoid drawing attention, and to be prepared for unexpected threats. Alex in turn ensured that their home was secure, making careful observations and adjustments. They were learning not just to survive, but to thrive together, combining human ingenuity and alien strength in a way that made them resilient. Through all of this, their friendship deepened. They shared stories of their pasts, hopes for the future, and the small joys of daily life. Alex taught Lyra about human emotions in subtle ways, showing her that compassion, kindness, and connection were as powerful as any weapon. Lyra, in turn, showed Alex courage, discipline, and a perspective far beyond his own experiences. Together they were growing stronger, not just individually, but as a team. One evening, as they watched the stars, Alex reflected on how far they had come. From the moment he had discovered Lyra kneeling in the forest begging for mercy, his life had changed completely. He had gained a friend, a teacher, and an ally from another world. Lyra had gained safety, trust, and a chance to understand a world far different from her own. Their journey had begun in desperation, but it had evolved into partnership, learning, and mutual respect. Lyra turned to Alex, her glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. "I never imagined I could feel this connection," she said softly. "You showed me kindness when I expected only judgment. You protected me when I had no one else. And now, I choose to stay, not because I must, but because I want to." Alex smiled, understanding the significance of her words. It was more than loyalty. It was choice, respect, and trust. As weeks turned into months, they continued their life together, balancing normal human activities with extraordinary preparation. They explored, experimented, and strengthened their Alex discovered courage and intelligence he had never realized he possessed. Lyra discovered patience, understanding, and the quiet beauty of human life. And together, they became a team capable of facing anything. Their story was no longer just about survival. It was about trust, growth, and the blending of two very different worlds. Alex had once been an ordinary human, dreaming of adventure. Lyra had once been a powerful alien warrior, surviving a harsh and unforgiving world. Now together they had found something neither had expected: friendship, loyalty, and hope for the future. And as they looked toward the horizon, knowing that challenges might come again, Alex and Lyra understood that they were ready. Not just ready to face danger, but ready to live, learn, and grow together. They had discovered that trust and understanding could bridge worlds, that courage could come from both human and alien hearts, and that the bond they shared would carry them through anything life or the universe might bring.